Hi guys, this is Fernando doing another video for the Modern Survivalist. The previous one went pretty well. I like the way it went. I like the result and the feedback I got from you guys. And always remember that I'm doing these videos for you, for the viewers. So if you have any other questions or any doubts or any topic you'd like me to cover or discuss, just feel free to leave your comment and I'll do my best, okay? Here are a few of the questions from the previous one. First one, what gun does Rico use? Rico is a guy I mentioned in the previous video. His name is Aldo Rico. He's currently a politician, but he has a military background. During the Malvinas Falkland War, he volunteered and created the 602 Commando Division, who fought very bravely and very effectively actually against the SAS, the British SAS. That's according accounts from both sides. It's not his. I've actually never heard him mention any of that in TV, but doing a bit of research and finding documentation and accounts from both sides of the war, it is effectively the way it went down. He's clearly extremely courageous, and it reflects also in his life as a civilian when he was involved in robbery attempts in several occasions. I think it was 4 or 5 times. He's always armed. About the question, what does Rico use? He used, at least in the last incident he was involved, he was still carrying Beretta 92 9mm. That's 15 + 1 rounds. Guys, that's a big gun, okay? That's that's the kind of gun lots of experts would say you should never carry because it's too big. It's actually the M9, like the one the US military uses in a holster. It's a very big gun, right? This guy, he carries it concealed in his clothing at all times, and actually managed to use it very effectively on several occasions when being outnumbered 5 to 1 or even more. He does not fool around with his firearm or his general attitude. In the last incident he was involved, it was this year, 2011, February 5th. 5 guys attempted to carjack him. They crossed a vehicle in front of his. He started shooting right away. One of the bad guys later showed up in the hospital and died because of his wounds. Rico himself, he was shot 3 times, once in the head, another wound in his waist, and another one through his arm. Now the guy, he was lucky enough so as to survive that. He was released from the hospital the following day, and while he was exiting, he was laughing, and a reporter asked him a question that pretty stupid, typical of reporters: do you feel any pain? And the guy replied, no, I don't feel any pain at all, I'm perfectly fine. And he said something very interesting. He said, I was trained not to complain about anything, let alone pain. So, you know, it actually shows the kind of person he is. Maybe as a politician you would have different opinions, but as in terms of mindset and the kind of person he is regarding facing problems, let alone facing attacks or being involved in combat, he, in my opinion, he has a huge set of brass going around over there. Extremely courageous guy. He's around here. He's close to 70 years old these days, I think. So, but it's always interesting to see what he has to say. And I mean, it's not a coincidence that you fight the SAS and survive. You fight 4 or 5 criminals and still survive. It's the attitude you have and the will of survival you have as well. There's always a bit of luck involved. That's always the case. There's always some luck, because if some of those wounds he got, instead of going a couple of inches above his head, they were a bit below, you know, getting your brain shot, that's something that luck is clearly involved as well. But the willingness to fight makes a difference. The determination you have in these sort of incidents, it's always there. Moving on, well, about the question, Beretta 92 9mm, very big gun, service pistol, M9 service pistol used by the US military currently. Maybe it wouldn't be my first opinion. I would have gone with the Glock a Glock 17 or a Glock like the one I have, the Glock 31. But Rico, being a military guy and an old school type of guy, I see why he went with something that wasn't plastic. So going on, a question about Hernan Killers, the friend of my friend that got he got killed in his house. They did capture 3 of his attackers, and one of them was actually carrying Hernan's folder that he probably stole from his home after killing him. So 3 of them are already have already been arrested, and there's still 3 of that same gang that haven't been captured yet. Another question about the lighter that I showed, it's the IMCO. Let me tell you exactly what it is. IMCO Triplex Super 6700. These are made in Austria. These are very nice lighters, and they have like a windshield so as to regulate the amount of flame you want. These will usually last twice as long as the Zippo lighters in terms of fuel evaporating from them. So it's not only smaller and more comfortable to carry in your pocket. You only have to refuel them once a month, give or take. Usually if you use them more frequently, the Zippo will last maybe a couple of weeks, depending on the fuel you use and all that. But in general terms, I actually tested these and Zippos so as to see how much each one lasts. I don't remember right now the numbers exactly, but it lasts twice as long as the Zippo lighters. The system is also very reliable. Let me show you a bit more, because if you haven't seen them, they look kind of strange. It has a system where you rotate a wheel and it turns it on as you slip over here, and it has a fuel tank right there. You refuel them through here, keep a spare flint hidden there as well, and to replace the flints you open them over here, right? You drop the flint there, and that's the way it works. The system looks a bit complex, but it is extremely rugged and resistant. I have some of these. I have a small collection of these lighters, these IMCO lighters, and they are very resistant. I've had them for decades, and they still work just as well as the first time. And I also bought one that is probably, I don't know, 20 years old, still works pretty well. Another question, the keyring pry bar. This is the Pico model. There are several. If you look for mini pry bars, you will usually find these. This is the Pico. There's also the Wedgie bar, which is a bit longer. I think this one is 2 inches. It's not much of a pry bar, but it's still good enough for those tasks where you would probably use the tip of your knife and maybe break it. Since I have a knife that it's small and the blade is pretty much fragile, if all I have with me is my keychain, I don't want to be risking any of my blades. I have 2 of them here in the Swiss Army Mini Champ. I have 1 blade here, and there's also what they call an emergency blade. But both of these are very fragile, so they work only for their intended purpose, which is cutting, and that's all. For anything else, I just like having the small Pico Wedgie, the small Pico pry bar. Sorry. There's also one that I'm buying, which is the Boker Vox titanium tool, and I'll post a picture of that in the blog as well. It's a bit longer than this one. I think it's 3 or 4 inches, and it's made of titanium, and it's a nice shape, and it has a glass breaker on one end and the prying bar and the nail puller on the other one. I thought I like the shape of it, so I'm getting one so as to review it and show it to you guys as well. You change back the mode. Are you a Christian? Do you hope for eternal life? So why so much paranoia? This was a comment by someone that obviously, well, I suppose is a Christian person or believes he is, and thinks that what I'm talking about is paranoia. That's not the case. Yes, I'm Christian, I'm Catholic. I don't consider myself paranoid given the circumstances we're living in here in Argentina. It's really complicated to get by and avoid trouble here. It's actually a bit of a task. So no, my friend, I'm not paranoid or anything like it. I'm just prepared, and according to my vision of things and Christianity, you know, there's many parts of the Bible that explains that you should be preparing, and God is not always gonna be there, you know, solving your stupid things, your mistakes. If you don't show any willingness to survive, it's not God's fault, it's yours. There's this little story that may apply for my friend here. There was a guy that suffered a plane crash, and he was stranded in an island, right? And a boat came by and offered him to help him, and he said, no, God is gonna be helping me. Then a plane saw him stranded in the island. They flew down and asked him if he wanted to be saved. He said, no, I'm gonna be staying here because God is gonna be saving me. So eventually this very wise person died, and when he met his maker, he asked God, why didn't you come and save me? And God told him, you know, I sent you a boat, I sent you a plane, what else do you want? You know, it's like people want God to be, you know, flying over them and protecting them. It's your responsibility, okay? God is going to be doing his part, you have to be doing yours, all right? If you don't show any willingness to survive on your own, you don't have anyone to blame but yourself, and especially not God. So don't get God involved in all of this, right? So, and again, it's about preparing for things that are likely, not wasting your time much with those things that aren't likely. Preparing for an economic collapse, an economic crisis, disruption in the general services we take sometimes for granted, or you guys in first world countries take for granted. We don't take them for granted anymore down here. And preparing for natural disasters, understanding the potential risks given your location, the place you live, if it's fires, if it's hurricanes, if it's terrorist attacks because you live in a major city, if it's evading floods, escaping from floods, evacuating because you live in an area that has that potential risk. It's not paranoia for me, it's common sense. And no matter where it is you live or whatever it is you do with your life, I think that some basic common sense preparedness steps, a certain mindset, a certain way of living your life, having a certain kind of tools with you, you know, so as to get by inconveniences, or if you value your life and the life of your family at all, understanding that, you know, cops are not going to be always there for you. Actually, if you ask cops, they cannot be promising you to materialize themselves in front of whatever threat you have and saving your life, because it's not realistic. It's not their job either. So, you know, you either hire an armed security bodyguard, you know, having him with you at all times, or take responsibility for yourself, where and when legal to carry, have a firearm so as to defend yourself. Some of us believe that way, or have at least that sort of mindset, right? So enough about the paranoia. You know, I just wanted to say that because I don't know, maybe someone else thinks the same way. Just wanted to reply to it. 357 SIG, is it available? And this was someone that said he hadn't found some 357 SIG. He mentioned that it wasn't as common. It's not, especially here. This is, for those of you guys who don't know it, this is the 357 SIG. It's basically a neck down 40 case with a 9mm projectile. These are our gold dots. These are 125 grain and fly out of the Glock 31 at around 1,450 feet per second, which is slightly a bit more than the average 357 Magnum out of a 4-inch revolver. So you're talking about a considerable amount of stopping power when you need it, right? For those of you that think that it's all the same, that all pistol calibers are underpowered and are likely to fail. I do agree with you up to some point. I think that when you need it, no amount of stopping power is going to be enough. You will always want some more. You will want a death rate that stops your threat right away, which isn't possible. But I don't agree on all of them being the same. I don't think that a 22 pistol is the same thing as a 9mm, and I would much likely prefer a 357 SIG rather than a 9mm. You know, some say that 357 SIG is an answer for a problem for a question no one asked or something like that. I think that those extra feet per second is actually very similar to the difference between 38 Special and 357 Magnum. And you know, if you have 38 Special plus P and you have 357 Magnum, the stopping power you're going to be getting is going to be different. So all of these are small margins, right? There's no terrible huge difference. But when you look at what ends up happening after shooting incidents and gunfights, you see that, you know, bigger or more power or more speed usually performs better. I've researched this I don't know, a good amount of time, and I haven't come to my decisions, you know, just by coincidence. I did my research, and I do know a good amount of incidents where different firearms and different calibers have been used. According to what I've seen, what I've learned is that certain calibers do better. 45 ACP will do good, 40 Smith & Wesson will do good, 357 SIG and 357 Magnum are one of the best calibers you can shoot from a handgun for self-defense. So that's my choice. Yeah, as my friend here asked, availability, it's not common at all. So you have to balance things a bit, you know. From a pure survival perspective, you want something that is commonly available, right? So that's why I also have a 9mm Glock, a 17, you know, because I want something that's commonly available, that ammunition is affordable, which 357 SIG can get pretty expensive. But at the same time, you also have a reality to deal with, which is that when you get involved in a gunfight, the ammunition you have with you is all you have. All right, it's not going to be involving any rushing to the gun shop and buying ammunition at the last minute. When you are in such a violent incident, in a gunfight, what you have with you is what you end up using. So I make sure I have an amount of 357 SIG, have a few extra boxes of ammunition, and you know, just prefer that. I prefer the extra bit of advantage provided by the SIG. 9mm with adequate rounds, which would be a light 115 and 124 grain projectile from made by Gold Dot, for example. It's a good brand. The Plus P, it's used by, I think it's still used by the New York Police and several other agencies. Gold Dot's Plus P 9mm, it will perform well. This one is used by I think it's used by the Texas Highway Patrol, a couple of other police agencies. The Secret Service, I believe, also uses 357 SIG. It's not only about the stopping power it provides, it's also more reliable in your firearm because of the bottle-shaped case. Makes feeding more reliable. It is extremely accurate. It's one of the most accurate rounds you can fire from a handgun as well. I mean, I'm not a great shooter by any means. I'm more of an average shooter myself, and I do notice the difference. I just shoot better with 357 SIG than with 9mm and 40 Smith & Wesson. The recoil isn't bad at all. It's like a stout 9mm. I like it better than the 40 Smith & Wesson. There's a bit of a muzzle flash, but practicing at night, I didn't experience any major problems with it. So there's many good things about the 357 SIG, and it's not only about the stopping power provided by it, right? So, well, I hope I answered the question I had. If you have any other questions, guys, as well, feel free, please, to leave your comments, and I'll answer them as best as I can, or any other topic you wish me to talk about and cover. just leave a comment and I'll do my best. Okay, remember to subscribe to the channel because I'll keep making more videos. There's also the blog at www.themodernsurvivalist.com, and that's gonna be it for now, guys. See you on our next video. Take care.